So we've had Imola, and it was a bit of a slow burn, that race, wasn't it? Wasn't very exciting at all. We got some action, not an awful lot. There wasn't an awful lot of overtaking throughout that race, was there? Let's get right to the start. It was a decent, solid start from Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri obviously got that 3-place grid penalty, so Norris lined up second for the race, and they both got away really well. The two Ferraris in behind, it looked like them two might get close, but they kept it sensible, and it was as you were for the front three, wasn't it? The big movers in that one really with Nico Hülkenberg up 2 places up to P8 and Kevin Magnussen up 2 places up to P16. Yuki Tsunoda got a poor start though, didn't he? Dropped 2 places down to P9. Lost out to Lewis and Nico Hülkenberg. And then it just settled down, that race, didn't it? And we got some strange early pit stops that look strange now, because they never really went for a second stop, which might have made that work. But very, very early stops around lap 10, 11, and the guys that did were just sitting ducks at the end. Steady race throughout the middle part, not an awful lot of action or excitement. The battle really, Oscar Piastri and Carlos Sainz in the first stint. Piastri was really fast, wasn't it? Just couldn't make a way past Carlos Sainz. Too difficult to overtake, really. The DRS not long enough, and there's not really any massive spots to overtake, or obvious places to overtake around Imola. Carlos Sainz though did a really good job, but then Oscar got the cut on him in the pit stops, and well, right at the end then it looked like we have a steady race, but Lando Norris put on an almighty charge, as did Lewis Hamilton at one point, didn't he? He was also very similar to Charles Leclerc and Norris at certain points of the race where they look quick, but Lando Norris just started pumping in the laps times, and you're waiting for Max Verstappen to respond, weren't we? And it just never really came from him until about 3 laps to go, where he just about did enough, eked it out, kept Lando Norris out of the DRS zone throughout the race, which is actually a really, really good race and craft from Max Verstappen, who had done a 24 hours sim race before and won that. So you know, he'd been really tested, whether he was tired, and his concentration was really had to be tested, didn't it? I mean, he was already on 3 infringements, so was on a black and white for track limits, so couldn't have put a foot wrong, could Max Verstappen, which made it that little bit more exciting, because one mistake, a 5-place penalty, and Norris would have had the win. So absolutely tremendous job from Verstappen to just soak that up. Kept it, I think he had it under control, didn't he? Norris didn't really seem to just have that little bit more to get close enough, and it's hard to follow in these cars. And then I imagine still, despite that, had he got into the DRS, I don't think he would have had enough to do something under the brakes in terms, potentially could have taken a lunge, but would he have done that with his mate? Potentially for a win now. He's tasted that success, Lando Norris, but a really, really good race and recovery in the end. Defence at the end from both of them. So let's get to the 3 good and the 3 bad, and no surprise, the first of that is Lando Norris. A very, very good race, comfortable P2. He dropped back in the early phase, and it looked like Red Bull and Max Verstappen would run off with it. They had a 7-8 second lead, not what we've seen where it's been 10-15 seconds, but enough of a gap where you thought Max was comfortable. But then in the second stint, it just came alive for Lando Norris. Absolutely brilliant. Great to see him finish just within a second of Red Bull, and let's hope they can take this battle in the next couple of races, and just keep the pressure on the Red Bull. It'd be actually great to see Red Bull not absolutely flying away with it now. This is more of the racing that we want to see. And second of the 3 good is Kevin Magnussen. Yes, you heard that right. Absolutely brilliant recovery ride from him. He started P18, made up 6 places and finished in 12th place. A really, really good race. Just finished 1.1 seconds behind Nico Hülkenberg, who started way up the field. So a really, really good job from Kevin. Kept it honest. It was close battles at one point, where he thought, just don't take a lunge. And I think had he not been on 10 penalty points and a race ban, I think he might have made more of some of the moves that he'd done. But really, really good, clean racing, and much better from him this weekend. Yeah, not points, but actually to finish just a second behind, starting so far down, shows what a really good job he did in the race. And the third of that is Lance Stroll. Yes, you heard that right. He makes it into the 3 good. Started in P13, finished in 9th place. A really good points for the Aston Martin team. The best of the Astons, isn't he? Put some good pace in throughout the stages where he needed it. Some good moves. A nice move on Nico Hülkenberg. And in the end, a very, very good P9. Solid points for the Aston Martin team. And then for the 3 bad, first of that is Sergio Perez. He had a poor qualifying, a scruffy race, really big mistake, didn't he? Went off at one point. Managed to survive without any serious damage. From there on though, he was just way off, wasn't he? He finished 7 seconds behind George Russell and nearly 20 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes, who have really, really struggled. A weekend to forget overall, I think, for Sergio Perez. He needs to pick it up, because last season, this is what we've seen. He went absolutely downhill from Miami, and it's, well, next race up, he's not done great, as in Monaco next, where last season he hit almost every wall around Monaco, didn't he? So he needs to have a better race there. And next up are the 3 bad. There's a name you won't hear often at all in here, is it? Fernando Alonso. He just, pit lane start, poor FP3, it started his troubles, didn't it? It's just never got better. In the race, he just didn't seem to get on top of anything. He had brakes on fire after a pit stop. They even tried to go for the fastest lap at the end and put on some softs, and he missed out on that. Just says it all for Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso. It was a horrible race weekend. He had absolutely no pace, just didn't seem to be able to get on top of it, and despite making the pit lane stop to readjust his car and get the setup right on that, didn't quite work out for him at all. One to forget, and hope he'll be hoping for more in Monaco. And then 3 is Valtteri Bottas. He had a stinker of a race, a silly really strategy, and just fell way back and just was a sitting duck. He was up at 13th place at one point and just, ended up in P18. It was just nowhere. I'm not sure why they pitted so early if they weren't then going to go for a 2 stopper and then go on a charge. It's the only way it made sense for them to be aggressive, and they just weren't really. And overall, I think the most disappointment of that is the race pace of Ferrari, weren't they? They just promised much but never really quite delivered. Carlos Sainz was saying though that I think the media really hyped up their upgrade package. It wasn't as good as it's made out in the media, but they did they're right, they did downplay that, but normally when you see that, it's normally just to simmer expectations. It's a home race and then they come in with a bang, but they were probably right on that. It wasn't as big as an upgrade as we'd seen, as probably say on the McLaren, and they'll be hoping for more and more refinement. We go to a circuit that's going to be a new and difficult one for everyone, isn't it? It's all about qualifying in Monaco. Looking forward to the action on qualifying. It's all about that qualifying on Monaco, and overall Imola was great to be back. A traditional circuit. I think there was some elements that was really good to see, but we got a pretty standard one-stop race, and they aren't always, like I've said before, not very exciting, are they? There doesn't seem to be an awful lot that happens. But it was actually really good to see that at the end, with the last 10 laps, we've seen Norris edging closer and closer, and it was did he have that little bit more to give and nick that first place? Just not quite enough for Lando Norris, but it's great to see him up there and actually battling that Red Bull, and sets us up for some more excitement in the season now, isn't it? And now we've got 2 teams potentially going in for race wins. It's all we want as Formula 1 fans, is some action and some fighting at the front, and it looks like we're finally getting it. But it was a decent Imola race, not fantastic though. And watch out for my driver ratings and my predictions review to come shortly, and then the Monaco Grand Prix in a week's time, so the preview for that will be coming up pretty quickly as well. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment as always. See you next time.